Secrets are never forever. Me 56F, husband 55M, how do I deal with this? We've built a beautiful life together with two amazing kids, our son, who's 27, and our daughter, who's 30. They've given us 4 precious grandchildren who bring us immense joy. My husband and I have shared 32 incredible years of marriage, filled with laughter, tears, and countless memories. But now I'm consumed by fear and anxiety. A secret I've kept hidden for decades has finally surfaced, and I'm terrified of the devastating impact it will have on our lives. Our entire world is about to be turned upside down, and I'm struggling to come to terms with the consequences. Last week, my son came to visit me, and I could sense something was bothering him. My husband was at work, so we had some privacy. We sat down in the living room, and I noticed his usually calm demeanor was replaced by a look of worry. I could see the weight of his concerns bearing down on him, and my maternal instincts kicked in. I took a deep breath and asked him to open up to me. "What's going on, sweetie?" I urged. "You can tell me anything, and we'll face it together," he hesitated, clearly struggling to find the right words. "Mom, I don't know how to start," he admitted. "So I'm just going to lay it all out there and hope you can help me make sense of it." His words sent a shiver down my spine. I had no idea what was coming, but I knew it was coming, but I knew it was serious. As my son paused, collecting his thoughts, my concern turned to alarm. I had no idea what was troubling him, but the gravity of his expression told me it was something monumental. I braced myself, thinking, this can't be good, but nothing could have prepared me for what he was about to reveal. "Mom, I did something recently," he began, his voice measured. "I took one of those ancestry DNA tests." I nodded, intrigued. His father had always been fascinated by genealogy, and I knew our son shared that interest. He wanted to learn more about our family's history, I thought, and maybe even discover some hidden relatives. "You know how Dad's always been into that stuff," he continued. "Well, I wanted to explore it too, for my kids' sake. I wanted them to know where they come from, to understand their roots." His words seemed innocent enough, but a nagging sense of unease settled in the pit of my stomach. I was still oblivious to the bombshell he was about to drop. My mind raced with possibilities, but I assumed it was something related to health. Did the test reveal some genetic predisposition to a disease, I wondered. "Is that what's worrying him?" I asked, trying to reassure him. "Is everything okay? Did the test show some medical issue we should be aware of?" But my son's expression remained grim. "No, Mom, it's not that," he said gently, his voice laced with empathy. "The problem is ... Dad has no common DNA with me." The words hung in the air like a guillotine, slicing through my comprehension. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind reeled, struggling to process the implications. I started shaking, my body trembling uncontrollably. Shock and denial warred within me. "What? That can't be ... How is that possible?" I stuttered, but the questions died on my lips. My son's solemn gaze confirmed the unthinkable. Then, his voice cut through the chaos. "Does Dad know?" I forced out a reply, my voice barely above a whisper. "No ... I didn't know until now." The moment of truth had finally arrived, shattering the fragile facade I'd maintained for 28 long years. The secret I'd hidden deep within, even from myself, was now exposed. A mix of emotions swirled inside me: guilt, shame, anxiety, and fear. I couldn't believe that the very thing I'd dreaded for decades was now staring me in the face. In the early days of my marriage, I'd made a mistake, a lapse in judgment that could have changed everything. When my son was born, I'd pushed those doubts aside, convincing myself that he was indeed my husband's child. The resemblance was uncanny. He had his father's eyes, his nose, his smile. I'd clung to that, reassuring myself that the blood tie was genuine. But now, the DNA test had ripped away that comforting illusion, leaving me staring at the stark reality. It all started during a particularly rough patch in our marriage. My husband was putting in ridiculously long hours at work, trying to make ends meet, while I was managing the household and our young daughter on my own. We were desperate to own our own home, but saving for a deposit seemed like an insurmountable task. The stress was taking a toll on our relationship. We were frustrated, exhausted, and feeling disconnected. It was during this vulnerable time that I made a choice that would haunt me for the rest of my life. A friend of my husband's, who was going through a breakup, had become a regular visitor to our home. He was charming, empathetic, and offered a listening ear when I needed it most. We bonded over our shared struggles, and one fateful night, after too many drinks and too much introspection, I crossed a line. The memories of that night are hazy, but the consequences are all too clear. We were also trying to expand our family, hoping to give our daughter a sibling. It was a stressful and emotional time, but we were determined to make it work. Meanwhile, my husband's friend, who was going through a painful breakup, had become a regular presence in our lives. We'd invited him into our home, offering a supportive ear and a shoulder to cry on. One evening, with my husband at work, his friend and I found ourselves alone, commiserating over drinks. The wine flowed, and our conversations turned deeper, exploring life's struggles and disappointments. Before I knew it, we'd both had too much to drink. The night blurs together, but the regrettable truth remains: we crossed a line, and I made a mistake that would forever alter the course of my life. The next morning, I woke up to crippling shame and guilt. My husband's friend and I exchanged mortified glances, silently agreeing to never speak of it again. We pretended it never happened, but the consequences were already in motion. That fateful night feels like a lifetime ago, its details hazy and distant. I've long tried to erase it from my memory, dismissing it as a singular lapse in judgment. In the years since, I've reaffirmed my commitment to my husband, never once tempted to stray again. But the consequences of that one mistake have lingered, hidden beneath the surface. And then, the unthinkable happened. I discovered I was pregnant. The timing coincided with our attempts to conceive, and I convinced myself that the child was my husband's. I pushed aside any doubts, focusing on the joy of expanding our family. Now, 28 years later, the truth has finally emerged, shattering the fragile narrative I'd constructed. My husband is an exceptional partner, and our marriage has been a rock-solid foundation for our family. We've weathered life's storms together, supporting each other through thick and thin. His kindness, love, and devotion have made me feel grateful every day. But now, I'm faced with the daunting task of shattering the trust and stability we've built. My son has made it clear he wants me to tell his father the truth. Dad will find out soon enough through ancestry, he urged, his voice laced with concern. It's better he hears it from you. The thought of breaking my husband's heart, of watching our relationship crumble under the weight of this revelation, is unbearable. I've always feared this day, and now it's staring me straight in the face. I'm paralyzed, unsure of how to proceed. The weight of my past mistake threatens to demolish everything I hold dear. My husband, my children, our entire family, everyone I love will be hurt by this revelation. The guilt is suffocating, and self-loathing washes over me. How could I have been so reckless, so selfish I torment myself? The shame of my infidelity, long buried, now rises to the surface. I know I can't erase the past or undo the harm, but I dread the impending pain. The thought of shattering my husband's trust, witnessing his heartbreak, and watching our relationship crumble is unbearable. The inevitable conversation looms ahead, casting a dark shadow over my every waking moment. My husband remains oblivious to the storm brewing, but I know I must be the one to break the news. Delaying the truth will only exacerbate the pain. I owe it to him, to our marriage, and to our family to be honest, no matter how excruciating it may be. With a heavy heart, I steel myself for the daunting task ahead. I'll choose the right moment, find the courage to speak the words, and face the consequences of my actions. The aftermath will be tumultuous, but I hope that our love, forged over 32 years, will somehow find a way to weather this hurricane. As I prepare to shatter the life we've built, I can only whisper a silent prayer: may our love and forgiveness somehow prevail.